Chrono Odyssey is described as a cosmic horror Souls-like MMO. It features time travel and challenging combat, as well as an in-depth crafting and gathering system for gear upgrades. Made by Chrono Studios and published by Cacao Games, the famous publisher for Black Desert Online, many MMO fans were hopeful and also skeptical about what this game could bring to the MMO genre. The alpha gameplay footage showed some stunning visuals alongside flashy and impactful combat, and the beta just closed this past weekend on June 22nd, and let's just say I have some thoughts. I'll be showing mainly footage from the official company itself because I was unable to procure some of my own footage due to my own technical limitations, which I'll get into first, and as always, spoilers ahead for this entire video. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's up, guys? Before we get into the video, I just want to let you know today's video is sponsored by Factor. You can get chef-prepared meals on the table in 2 minutes with Factor's ready-to-eat meals, so you can get back to soaking in the summer sun outside. Not like me, I'm inside pretty much all day. But anyways, Factor offers loads of snack options like breakfast, smoothies, juices, small bites, and even more just to keep you going throughout the day. Factor meals also eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. You simply just heat it up and, savor the good stuff. And with Factor, you can rest assured that you're making a sustainable choice. Factor offsets 100% of delivery emissions and sources 100% renewable electricity for their production sites and offices. You can choose from a weekly menu of 35 different options, including popular stuff like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or even vegan and veggie options. You can discover 60 more add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and beverages even, to help you stay fueled and feel good all day long. So what are you waiting for? Get started today and fuel up with your goals. Get 50% off and free shipping on your first Factor order using my link. Click it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. From a performance standpoint, this game is a mess. Although running on Unreal 5, the rendering and graphical fidelity sucked for me. I have a 3060 with 12 gigabytes of virtual RAM, which for me is enough to play games on either max or very high settings while still being able to record and stream. I understand that probably this isn't the best GPU and is holding me back probably from playing this game, but the minimum required to play this game is still a 1660 Ti. I was playing on high settings, which for some reason is the middle option of the graphical presets, and still encountering issues with mobs and resources loading in the open world, as well as players and other things. I will play devil's advocate here a bit and say that the instance content runs way better. Whenever you're in a solo boss room or quest instance, a dungeon, a labyrinth, the game runs pretty great. I had no issues whatsoever when fighting any of the major Chrono Gate bosses. I know it's an open beta and there will be technical issues, and I know this is technically an older build of the game, but please make sure the game runs optimally at least the lowest setting. I knew people who had the minimum requirements to run the game but just weren't able to at all. In experimenting with the settings, I put the graphics presets to cinematic, the highest setting, just to see what it would at least look like, and I thought my PC was going to explode. I mean, I didn't hear anything wrong with my PC, but the way the game loaded, something was very, very wrong. Baldur's body's parts were everywhere, and Kaya was just a floating hood, and people were just screaming. It looked more like a cosmic horror than what it sold itself to be. Overall here, I would say the game's optimization needs heavy improvement. Not everyone has access to mid-level or high-end GPUs nowadays, and due to price and demand, so making the game being able to run well on lower-end cards is paramount to this game's success in my opinion. There was also this funny bug where there were stretches of time where my character had no wrists. I'll pop up a screenshot right now. The same thing happened in New World to me too, kind of, where one of my character's hands would disappear when using the ice gauntlets too, so that's a little funny. The game played just alright to me. It was decently responsive, and I was able to beat all 4 main Chrono Gate bosses on my Ranger at least. I will say though that the lock-on feature is a blessing but also a curse at the same time. While it'll help players consistently hit their attacks, there's something off about it to me. I feel like my character moves slower with it on, and the perspective at which it locks on is dismal to say the least. It forces your POV to look up at the center of gravity of the opponent if you're too close, especially on Swordsman and Barbarian or Berserker, whatever that other class is, and it's very disorienting for playing and makes it hard to read any of the boss's telegraphs for moves. I remember fighting the Primeval Capra on my Swordsman and just straight up quitting to make a Ranger because it was too exhausting to keep toggling my lock on and off. The combat is definitely Souls-like in spirit, but adds a niche flair akin to New World due to the weapon system. The dual weapon system is just alright to me. While I like the idea of being able to switch between two weapons, I've never been super on board with the idea of using them together or having them directly rely on each other. I'd rather appreciate being able to switch between two different playstyles depending on the situation, and not just have one convoluted playstyle and micromanaging my weapon swaps. God knows I've done that too much in Destiny 2. However, the combat itself feels a little slow and clunky. Dodging doesn't feel responsive and sometimes locks you in place to get wailed on by mobs or bosses. A lot of attacks in the game lock you in place with animations you just can't cancel. But you might say, oh, that just means you need to learn the timing on when to do those attacks. But there's a strict difference between learning the timing and the actual move making you a sitting duck for the boss to wind up a Detroit smash. The weapons themselves feel alright to use as well. The Greatsword feels like it has actual weight compared to other games, and quicker weapons like the dual blades and the crossbows feel snappy and fast to use. I actually really like using the dual crossbows because it made me feel like I was Vayne from League of Legends with their little wrist crossbows just kiting around and having great movement. I was able to kind of just movement diff some of the bosses, so that was pretty nice. There's not much to say about the gathering and crafting in the game, as it's pretty straightforward. Just gather the right materials and make the things you want. I just wish there was an easier way to view crafting recipes, either by, pinning them with your quests like what WoW does, or just having a separate pop-up menu for the recipes. But the crafting system, it feels just like a direct copy of New World, if I had to be completely honest. The questing is kind of whatever. Most of the quests are fetch or kill quests, where the quest zone is ambiguous at best. There's a couple of funny quests, like the one where you have to save the naked dude on the rock waterfall, and then he also pops up in a different area of the map in the defectors camp, getting caught by bandits. That was a pretty interesting quest line for me. I think the dynamic questing in this game is actually pretty great, as quest-giving NPCs aren't necessarily locked in specific locations. On my Swordsman, I got the quest from Hans to avenge his wife during my quest to save the naked dude on the rock, but however on my Ranger, I got the Hans quest while still in the first village, clearly indicating that this NPC can be encountered in multiple places for ease of access to his quests, which makes the world feel a bit alive and something I actually really enjoy in this game. A small gripe I have, though, is the actual interact button. You have to press it either so many times until your character actually performs action, or you have to be in a very specific spot for your character to perform the action, which can honestly mean life or death in some occasions, especially on the second Chrono Gate boss. It feels awful and frustrating when you die to a failed interact prompt because the game failed to register your input. The quest log as well kind of sucks. It hard capped me to only show 2 or 3 quests at a time, so there were times where I didn't know I was in a quest objective area until later down the line where I thought, hey, what happened to that quest? And found out I had to completely backtrack to complete it. I wanted to dedicate a section of this video specifically for the bosses, since it feels like they're an integral part of the game due to the game leaning into the Souls-like genre. The tutorial boss, the Centurio Spada, is actually kind of a stripped down version of its true self, since it's, the tutorial boss. Most of the time, its focus is on your NPC companion, Etheldreda, but it gives you time to work out your abilities, how to dodge and maneuver a boss room, and overall it's pretty low stress as a boss. I've heard you can die on this boss, but it'll just launch you into the game after the cutscene. You will get the chance to fight the Spada again when you're tasked with investigating a void entity with Balder as a special event where it spawns in a giant sphere and you fight it with multiple other players. It has way more moves this time, and it's decently fun as a field boss. I guess the next kind of mini bosses to talk about would be the wyverns found near the coastal outpost in the ruins, but there's not much to talk about since, they're field bosses, they're inherently not as hard as the main Chrono Gate bosses. I fought them once and, they're a pain to fight as a melee class. As a ranger, you can kind of just, sit outside of their fire breath attack and dodge their other fire attacks pretty easily. So yeah, not much to talk about here. The true first boss of the game is the Thousand-Fold Piercer. Now, you technically can lose this boss on your first try, give up, and then the main quest line will tell you to go to the Citadel and then go back and challenge it again, which is kind of not super intuitive, but you know, whatever. Or you can just choose to stay in the game and kind of tough it out, which is what I did. I actually really like this boss, and its moveset is challenging, but in my opinion, it's not super unfair as well. I've been able to kill this boss, like I said, right when I got to the boss room after multiple tries. On my swordsman, it definitely took more than 20 plus tries, but I was determined to, you know, kill him. But on my ranger, I was able to do it probably within my first 5 tries, and I didn't have to like leave and grind to stat check him as like the tooltip recommends. I think its design is really cool, and it's really fun and unique to see the boss's design around their weapons. In this case, it's like this cool lightning spear. I think it's a great first boss and sets the difficulty tone for the rest of the game. There is maybe one attack that I do have a gripe about, which is when he like leaps in the air. He has like 2 versions of it. So the first one, he like leaps in the air and slams down without the extra lightning. I don't think that one can one-hit KO you, but both attacks have this weird lock-on mechanic that you have to iframe. You can't just like dodge and he'll go to the spot where you were. He'll instead lock on to where your character model is, so you do have to iframe it, which it feels like a weird complaint, but it feels very punishing for a first-time player doing it. So I don't know. That's my little gripe about it, but I understand if people are like, oh, that's par for the course for a Souls-like boss. So sure. There's a mini like scorpion field boss on the way to the second major boss, but I always avoided fighting it since it seems like no one else wanted to find it. There's also that big rock golem that you have to kill for the primeval or primordial iron quest. I fought that one multiple times to get the iron. That one's cool. It doesn't really do anything. You can kind of just stand behind it the entire time, and it will not attack you whatsoever, especially if you have multiple people. So it's mainly someone has to kind of take aggro and do all the dodging, and then everyone else can just pile behind the boss and just wail on it. So yeah, not anything too special. The second Chrono Gate boss is the Earthbreaker. This is a very unique boss fight in the game where the actual difficulty isn't in the fight itself, but the obstacles to get to the fight. You have to traverse a long hallway of flamethrowers while also dodging ball and laser attacks from the Earthbreaker. Getting there isn't necessarily the hard part though. The hard part is coming back after damaging the boss, and I'll explain that in a couple seconds. So the boss has an energy shield around it that you have to lower using 2 nearby levers, and after pulling the levers, it's DPS time. The boss is actually very squishy. You can stagger it with maybe 2 or 3 attacks. I've been able to one-phase it with my ranger using the crossbow rapier combo with a lot of poisons. The rapier actually does a lot of burst damage in my opinion, but most of the time you'll get the boss to around half HP before it goes immune again and starts expelling this poisonous gas, and that's your cue to run back to the start of the hallway as the game tells you to. But it's immensely more difficult because the flamethrowers on the way back, they're still on the timing of when you were coming down, so you have to like, it's this weird timing. You will take damage, there's no way around it. You will take damage from the flamethrowers, so this fight is basically a kind of a healing check whether you have enough good potions to get you through the hallway, in my opinion, which feels frustrating in its design. Overall, the boss isn't too hard. Like, the boss goes down in 2 phases pretty easily, but you do have to unfortunately brute force it with health potions, which I feel like is not super good game design. I feel like health potions should just be there to help you in case you're struggling a little bit, but having it as part of a main design where it's like, oh yeah, you will get hit by stuff on the way there and on the way back, and you're kind of gambling with your life at the boss, I don't feel like that's good game design at all. There's another field boss that's related to a quest where you have to avenge some soldiers called the Void Brute. He's extremely easy and not even remotely a challenge. He just has a lot of HP. All of his attacks are very well telegraphed, and with multiple players this becomes even easier. The third major Chrono Gate boss is the Primeval Capra. I especially hate this boss, plain and simple. It has a few well telegraphed attacks, but it just has this one attack where it swipes at you repeatedly. You think you're safe, but when you dodge out of the way, but you don't realize it gets closer on every swipe. And it can cover like half the boss room with just those swipes. And I don't like that move at all. I think it's very stupid. This is also technically a minion boss, which makes it even worse, since at 75 and 50% HP, it will go immune and leave the room and summon a horde of void minions. This is almost nearly impossible to survive as melee in my opinion, and you need to tweak your build for AoE just for this fight. As a ranger, you can kind of just kite the mobs around the arena and wait for your cooldowns, but there's actually a couple of dead spots that can catch you and get you swarmed in seconds. There's like little protruding like things from the doorway. The second time the boss does it at 50% HP, it will leap down and join the mobs in harassing you. In my opinion, this is not a fun fight whatsoever, and it just feels like you're in hell playing it, and things are just running at you. The last Chrono Gate boss is the Arsenalith, and honestly, this is my favorite boss. The vibe of this boss gives off just straight aura, and I think the boss design is actually fantastic. You engage with it 4 times before the actual boss fight in the arena, and each time it displays a different weapon and the attacks it'll use, and when you get it to half HP in each encounter, it retreats deeper into its arena. It's almost as if it's preparing you to fight it since it hasn't had a worthy challenger in a while. The actual fight is super fun, and it's engaging to imply your knowledge of the weapons while fighting it. Of course, it displays new moves when you get it to around like 30 to 25% HP, but the whole fight keeps making your mind and experience work by associating the attacks with the weapons it's using that you've encountered previously. So yeah, if I had to rank the bosses, first would be Arsenalith, then the Thousandfold Piercer, then the Earthbreaker, and then the Capra. I'd actually swap the positions of the Arsenalith and the Capra in order of bosses in the game. I think the Capra is probably the hardest boss on this list, if I had to be honest. I'm going to preface this section by saying I'm not a design major. I didn't study any art design, any game design, or anything like that. I'm just a guy who likes playing games and know what he likes. So without further ado, let's start it. I wanted to like the world and the setting of this game so much, but honestly I feel a bit disappointed. The world feels desaturated and pretty much a New World clone. When I got to the first settlement, it legitimately felt like I was in Windsward or Everfall. This type of high fantasy village just didn't appeal to me. The only cool parts of the world I liked were the gothic and void twisted structures that appeared straight out of Dune, and while they felt appropriately out of place since they were void invasions, these genres just don't feel like they mix and match. The different enemy encampments like Saroma Stronghold or the Defectors Camp just feel exactly the same as well. The enemy design also feels overly bland too. Chrono Odyssey does a great job with the void creatures and the bosses to make them feel, haunting, Euclidean, just something straight out of this world. But the human and undead enemies feel like they were just ripped straight out of Path of Exile too. One nitpick I have about the Primeval Capra design, I just hate this thing in general, and the arena design is that it's too red. Sometimes it was hard to see its telegraphs because the room was too red and I couldn't see the Capra's model move. The NPCs and characters feel uninspired as well. It's just the same generic Nordic/Western European style where either everyone sounds like a Viking or belongs on the set of Bridgerton. The Citadel is a decent kind of space to explore, but it's pretty empty aside from the 4 NPCs you can talk to. My last gripe about design here is that after you beat the Arsenalith and go back to the Citadel to restore your chronometer, you go to a vision of Velia's world consumed by the Void. However, there's absolutely nothing unique about it. It's a carbon copy of the section of the overworld from the coastal settlement up into the ruins, containing the Wyvern and the roly-poly mini-boss, with frozen void creatures spread in between. I'd understand if they needed much more time to develop an actual world for Velia, but that doesn't seem like the case at all. It's such a disappointing way to end the beta campaign and doesn't really inspire me to find more about Velia's world if it's just the same as mine. In conclusion, do I think Chrono Odyssey is a bad game? No. Do I think it's a good game? Also no. I think Chrono Odyssey has clear design and technical issues they need to overcome, but I also think it has good bones for what it wants to be. While it's slightly disappointing that this feels like a New World copy or derivation, I think Chrono Odyssey will find decent success if they hone in on their boss design, combat, and storytelling. I think perfecting those 3 will hopefully get players to not think about the lackluster crafting a gathering system in the world design. Oh, and also please, please, please fix the interact button reliability for the love of God. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I just really enjoy doing YouTube and streaming in general. It's not my full-time job or anything. It's just something I like to do on the side. So just letting me know that you guys like this kind of stuff makes me feel good at the end of the day. But yeah, I'll be back with more videos in the future, and stay tuned for those. All right, bye.